Dinosaurs, eternal rulers of the ancient Earth. Dinosaurs emerged when the world was raw and untamed. When fire poured from mountains and jungles grew thick with endless green. Dinosaurs became the first great lords of the land, filling the earth with footsteps that thundered like storms. Dinosaurs rose from small beginnings to dominate every corner of the planet, shaping time itself with their reign. Dinosaurs stretched their necks into the clouds, the sauropods grazing treetops as though forests were fields made for giants. Dinosaurs shook the ground with every step, moving in herds that darkened valleys and turned rivers into pathways of power. Dinosaurs towered like living mountains, reminding every creature of their unmatched presence. Dinosaurs also hunted with speed and cunning. Raptors darted through shadows, claws sharp as daggers, eyes bright with intelligence. Dinosaurs in packs moved like flowing rivers of death, surrounding prey with precision, never striking without purpose. Dinosaurs mastered teamwork long before others would dream of such unity. Dinosaurs filled the skies with wings that stretched across horizons. Pterosaurs soared where clouds met sun, their cries echoing over seas and plains. Dinosaurs of the air ruled with grace and terror, diving upon fish or gliding for miles with the strength of storms. Dinosaurs proved that the kingdom of the earth included sky and ocean alike. Dinosaurs conquered the oceans with leviathans of scale and jaw. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs glided through deep waters, jaws wide, teeth curved like hooks. Dinosaurs of the sea hunted with silence and precision, striking with power that no creature could resist. Dinosaurs ensured that even the darkest depths trembled with their rule. Dinosaurs displayed power in diversity. Horned ceratopsians formed armies of shields, horns gleaming like spears in the sun. Dinosaurs marched together, creating living fortresses that defied even the deadliest predators. Dinosaurs proved that unity was as mighty as teeth and claws. Dinosaurs armored themselves with living stone. Ankylosaurs carried spiked clubs on tails, their backs plated with bone, their bodies unbreakable against jaws. Dinosaurs became fortresses walking through forests, reminding hunters that not all prey would fall. Dinosaurs taught that defense could be as glorious as attack. Dinosaurs carried elegance too. Stegosaurs with plates rising along their backs and tails tipped with spikes grazed in peace until danger came. Dinosaurs turned those tails into whips of destruction, striking with force that crushed bones. Dinosaurs blended calm survival with sudden fury. Dinosaurs ruled not only with size but with patience. Dinosaurs stalked, studied, and waited for the right moment to strike. Dinosaurs knew timing meant survival, and timing meant power. Dinosaurs revealed that the strongest were not always the loudest, but the most precise. Dinosaurs endured storms that split skies and floods that drowned forests. Dinosaurs stood against fire raining from volcanoes, against winds tearing trees from earth. Dinosaurs did not bow to disaster. Dinosaurs thrived in it. Dinosaurs carried resilience in their blood, teaching the earth that true rulers never yield. Dinosaurs raised their young with fierce devotion. Nests guarded by mothers and fathers alike gave rise to hatchlings whose cries filled the jungles. Dinosaurs defended their eggs with horns, tails, claws, and teeth, proving that love and survival were bound together. Dinosaurs carried life forward with protection as mighty as dominance. Dinosaurs filled plains with migrations that never ended. Herds traveled across deserts and swamps, across rivers and mountains, leaving trails of thunder behind them. Dinosaurs moved not as wanderers but as rulers claiming their land. Dinosaurs made every journey a conquest of endurance. Dinosaurs carried beauty in their diversity of form. Some shimmered with feathers catching sunlight, colors bright as fire. Dinosaurs danced across sands with speed, while others crept through shadows with stealth. Dinosaurs showed that survival had many shapes, all fierce, all magnificent. Dinosaurs clashed in battles of strength and pride. Horns locked in combat, tails smashed with bone-breaking force, jaws snapped against shields of scale. Dinosaurs fought not for cruelty but for dominance, for survival, for the right to lead. Dinosaurs turned valleys into arenas of thunder. Dinosaurs did not rule alone but created balance. Prey and predator lived in eternal rhythm, each giving the other purpose. Dinosaurs hunted. And dinosaurs were hunted, yet the cycle ensured life flourished. Dinosaurs became the architects of balance, their struggles the heartbeat of the earth. Dinosaurs became symbols of endurance. When drought dried rivers, dinosaurs dug for roots and marched for weeks in search of water. When forests burned, dinosaurs moved to new lands, their footsteps carrying the promise of survival. Dinosaurs never surrendered. Dinosaurs adapted. Dinosaurs shaped the world with their very presence. Forests grew where dinosaurs spread seeds. Rivers carved new paths where herds crossed. Dinosaurs were not simply inhabitants of the earth. Dinosaurs were sculptors of it. Dinosaurs left behind a planet forever changed by their reign. Dinosaurs painted mornings with their roars. The sun rose to the sound of horns, wings, and cries. Dinosaurs filled the dawn with life, filling jungles and plains with a chorus of power. Dinosaurs turned every sunrise into a declaration of rule. Dinosaurs painted nights with their hunts. The moon shone on shadows filled with moving claws, glowing eyes, and silent steps. Dinosaurs filled darkness with danger and mystery. Dinosaurs claimed even the hours of silence as their own. Dinosaurs filled valleys with echoes that never faded. Roars of Tyrannosaurus Rex shook mountains. Calls of hadrosaurs rolled like music. The thunder of sauropod footsteps echoed for miles. Dinosaurs gave the world a voice deeper than time itself. Dinosaurs ensured silence never truly ruled. Dinosaurs thrived for millions of years, longer than any empire of the future could dream. Dinosaurs proved that survival is not measured in decades but in ages. Dinosaurs were time's greatest champions. Dinosaurs stood eternal until the stars themselves brought change. Dinosaurs faced rivals greater than any predator, the earth and sky themselves. Dinosaurs endured comets blazing, volcanoes raging, continents shifting, yet still they lived on. Dinosaurs showed the universe that rulers fight until the last breath. Dinosaurs carved their defiance into stone. Dinosaurs fell in the end. But dinosaurs did not vanish. Dinosaurs transformed, their spirits taking flight in birds, their essence carried in every wing beat. Dinosaurs still soar through skies today, proof that no power truly dies. Dinosaurs live, not only in bones but in life itself. Dinosaurs are remembered not as shadows of the past but as flames of existence. Dinosaurs are legends whispered by stone, sung by rivers, painted by storms. Dinosaurs remain eternal because the earth itself will never forget. Dinosaurs carved their names into forever. Dinosaurs still teach us lessons through memory. Dinosaurs teach resilience in storms, unity in herds, patience in hunts, courage in battles, and adaptation in change. Dinosaurs remind us that the greatest power is not in survival alone but in shaping the world while surviving. Dinosaurs left wisdom written in time. Dinosaurs remain the lords of imagination. Dinosaurs inspire stories, dreams, and visions of power. Dinosaurs stand as proof that life once reached heights so grand that even time bows to memory. Dinosaurs are more than history. Dinosaurs are eternal kings. Dinosaurs were thunder, lightning, silence, and storm. Dinosaurs were life at its fiercest, survival at its purest, power at its most undeniable. Dinosaurs still roar in every heart that remembers them, still walk in every shadow of memory. Dinosaurs remain eternal, the true lords of the ancient earth. Dinosaurs walked in deserts where sandstorms raged, their scales glowing under the sun like living armor. Dinosaurs bent to drink at hidden oases, their shadows stretching across dunes. Dinosaurs turned wastelands into kingdoms of survival through endurance unmatched. Dinosaurs climbed cliffs where winds howled like spirits, their claws gripping stone as they rose higher and higher. Dinosaurs reached plateaus where only eagles soared, claiming heights as their own. Dinosaurs proved that no barrier of stone or sky could deny their strength. Dinosaurs moved through swamps thick with mist, tails dragging lines through mud, jaws snapping at fish below dark waters. Dinosaurs lived where danger hid beneath the surface. But dinosaurs thrived where others feared to tread. Dinosaurs transformed swamps into arenas of dominance. Dinosaurs faced predators among themselves, battles fierce and unforgiving. Dinosaurs clashed with horns, with teeth, with tails that shattered bones. Dinosaurs fought not for cruelty but for survival, for the right to lead, for the honor of dominance. Dinosaurs wrote their history in scars. Dinosaurs filled the forests with vibrant energy, breaking branches with massive bodies, shaking canopies with every step. Dinosaurs in herds stripped trees of leaves, while smaller dinosaurs scurried through undergrowth. Dinosaurs created a living symphony of footsteps, cries, and roars. Dinosaurs glistened with scales, feathers, and crests, each unique, each beautiful. Dinosaurs wore crowns of bone, sails of skin, or vibrant colors meant to dazzle rivals. Dinosaurs turned survival into art, showing that power and beauty could live together. Dinosaurs leapt through rivers, jaws snapping at fish that flashed in silver streams. Dinosaurs swam with tails slicing water like blades, bodies moving like shadows in currents. Dinosaurs ruled rivers with the same power they ruled land and sky. Dinosaurs searched for food in herds that stretched for miles, mothers guarding young as leaders guided the path. Dinosaurs stood shoulder to shoulder, creating strength through unity. Dinosaurs proved that together, survival was not just possible but inevitable. Dinosaurs sharpened their senses to survive, eyes scanning, ears twitching, noses catching every scent. Dinosaurs lived through awareness, every detail shaping their decisions. Dinosaurs thrived because they mastered not only strength but also perception. Dinosaurs turned volcanic lands into homes, moving through ash, fire, and lava. Dinosaurs adapted to heat that scorched earth, to skies filled with smoke. Dinosaurs carried resilience even in fire, showing that life finds power even in chaos. Dinosaurs braved the cold when glaciers spread, covering lands in endless snow. Dinosaurs marched across frozen plains, their bodies steaming against frost. Dinosaurs learned to live where breath turned to ice, claiming even the cold as their domain. Dinosaurs lived in harmony with storms, their roars blending with thunder, their bodies glistening in rain. Dinosaurs charged through lightning-lit nights, unafraid of the power above. Dinosaurs became storms themselves, each step carrying the force of thunder. Dinosaurs grew enormous, pushing limits of size and strength, their bodies larger than houses, their necks longer than rivers. Dinosaurs filled horizons like walking continents, each movement shaking earth beneath. Dinosaurs redefined the meaning of scale. Dinosaurs grew small too, nimble and fast, darting between shadows, climbing trees, and hiding in burrows. Dinosaurs taught that size was not the only power. Survival came from speed, agility, and cleverness. Dinosaurs ruled every niche of life. Dinosaurs laid eggs in hidden nests, shells fragile yet sacred. Dinosaurs guarded their young with ferocity, defending with claws, horns, and teeth. Dinosaurs passed their legacy to new generations, each hatchling a promise that dinosaurs would live on. Dinosaurs adapted colors to survive, some blending into trees, some glowing bright to warn rivals. Dinosaurs used patterns as language, scales as signals, feathers as banners. Dinosaurs communicated power not only with sound but with sight. Dinosaurs traveled across continents, migrations carrying them through deserts, forests, swamps, and mountains. Dinosaurs created trails that became lifelines for other creatures. Dinosaurs showed that leadership came not only from strength but from guiding others. Dinosaurs lived in peace when peace was possible, grazing, drinking, basking under sun. Dinosaurs rested in herds, watched skies, and felt winds carry scents of distant lands. Dinosaurs showed that even rulers knew moments of quiet glory. Dinosaurs died. But dinosaurs left bones in stone, fossils carved into memory. Dinosaurs gave Earth a library of power, each fossil a chapter of their reign. Dinosaurs spoke across time, their silence louder than words. Dinosaurs endure even now, living through birds that fly, through stories told, through imaginations that still roar. Dinosaurs remain eternal, symbols of survival, power, and majesty. Dinosaurs never left. Dinosaurs transformed into immortality.